Hello and welcome back to another video where in this one I'm going to be going through the 26 players that I think should be on the plane to the Euros for Gareth Southgate for England. Right, let's start off with the goalkeepers, and let's start off pretty simple. It's pretty evident that Jordan Pickford is going to be on the plane to the Euros. He started the first friendly against Bosnia, and I don't think he's going to be out of the squad in these friendlies because it's important to fit players into a system around him. Pickford is the one that is a knock-on guaranteed to be playing at the Euros. That's the reality of it. You know, he's going to be starting. If it was a different game, miles out from a major tournament, you can experiment with your goalkeeper, but you're not going to do that right ahead of the tournament. And I think the fact he's stuck Pickford in for the first friendly guarantees Pickford is going to be starting at the Euros. Alongside him, though, it gets a bit more interesting about between the other three who are called up to the provisional squad. Which two are going to be there? I think Aaron Ramsdale will be on the plane. I think he's a character who is good for the dressing room. I think he's a positive character. Not had the game time this season, but same situation with other goalkeepers, to be honest. We know Sam Johnston's injured, so he's not in the provisional squad. The other two, other than Ramsdale and Pickford, are Dean Henderson and James Trafford, both of which have had half a season each, pretty much. Arguably less for Dean Henderson, because he's only came in when Sam Johnston was injured. So it's really interesting about who's going to be the other goalkeepers on the plane, but I expect Aaron Ramsdale will be there. I would put Aaron Ramsdale on the plane. And I would put next to him, I think I'd go Dean Henderson. And the reason I'd go Dean Henderson over James Trafford is that James Trafford, he's not really played much since January. Muric has been coming in. Whereas Dean Henderson's done a very, very good job for Crystal Palace in the absence of Sam Johnston. And he's been the starting goalkeeper in this revived Crystal Palace under Glasner. So, fair enough to him, and I think he has to be in there. Right, so that's my thoughts on the goalkeeper debate. I'm having Pickford, Ramsdale and Henderson, and Trafford is out of the squad. Moving on to left back, I can't really do left back and centre back and right back individually, because I've got a lot of players who are versatile in the role they could play in this team. Ultimately, Southgate needs to pick versatile players because we don't know with certain players whether they're actually going to be on the plane. We don't know if Luke Shaw's an option because he might not be fit for the competition. Nonetheless, I've put Shaw in my squad for the final 26. And I've put actually as the other left back, I've put Trippier, which, he's a right back naturally. He actually played left back yesterday, I'm pretty certain. I'm not going to guarantee that, but I'm pretty sure he did. He can definitely do a job on that left-hand side behind Luke Shaw, and perhaps starting if Luke Shaw's not going to be fit enough for the tournament. That's what I would do, I think. Ultimately, the two centre-backs I think are pretty a given. We're going to see Harry Maguire, who's always been a confident player for England, and we're going to see John Stones, who's obviously another long-term servant for England like Harry Maguire. In the defensive partnership, they know the England setup. They have to be in the squad. You can't leave them out realistically. Which leaves us with two other centre-back positions, because I would want to bring four. I wouldn't want to narrow it down more than that, but I do have players in this squad who could really fill that role. I mean, worst case scenario, Trippier or Shaw can play centre-back. Shaw played centre-back at times this season for Manchester United. Manchester United played anyone at centre-back this season with the amount of injuries they've had, though. But yeah, he has experience in the position if need be. I don't think Trippier'd be brilliant there, but in an absolute emergency, why not? But yeah, Maguire and Stones is the main two, and the two I would bring alongside them would be Jarrad Branthwaite, who's had a phenomenal season with Everton, and Konsa, who I think is pretty a given to be in the squad, to be honest. He's had a great season with Aston Villa, and I think he absolutely deserves to be in there. And also a versatile player. He can play fullback. He's played right back for England in the past, in the last couple of friendlies, I think. And I think he would be a good option to bring as well to the Euros. Now, in terms of the right backs I'm bringing, obviously Trippier can play right back. But I also have two players who are, I'm going to say, are the right backs in the squad. One of which is a natural centre back, but he can definitely do a job at right back. But first things first, Kyle Walker, 100% has to be on the plane. He has to be there. That's the reality of it. There's not much more to say about that. And I'm bringing Joe Gomez as well. I think not just his quality, but he is a good defender, but also his versatility is really important. I brought a lot of versatile players. I think the vast majority of these players could play across the back line. Most of them could play in two positions. When we've seen John Stones invert into midfield, sorry, inverting, but you know what I mean. John Stones can go into midfield if need be. We've got a lot of players who can play a lot of different positions. Right, so I'm going to run through the defenders now. So I'm bringing Shaw, Trippier, Maguire, Stones, Konsa, Jarrad Branthwaite, Walker, and Joe Gomez. Those are my defensive numbers. Now, midfield. This is actually really interesting. I don't know what to do here. The issue is, how defensive is this team going to be? We've got so many amazing attacking options. Part of me thinks we just play with one holding mid and we have the others pushing forward a lot more. But then how does Trent Alexander-Arnold get in the team? Does he play more of an 8 role? Or do we play effectively with 2 10s? That would leave the midfield very open. It's an interesting one. It really is. But I would definitely be taking Declan Rice and Kobbie Mainoo. I think they're pretty a given. I don't think Mainoo... it'd be very harsh to leave him out of the squad, in my opinion. And Declan Rice, he has to be there, 100%. He will be the starting holding mid at the Euros. Then it's about whether we have an 8. If we have an 8, I could see Trent playing that 8, and I could see, I guess, Mainoo could progress into an 8, as well as the other midfielder I'm bringing in that sort of holding position. I wouldn't be surprised if Conor Gallagher was pushed into an 8, but I'd probably bring him as more a defensive option in the absence of Declan Rice, if need be, or an option off the bench. Yeah. I would also be bringing Trent Alexander-Arnold, who, again, can play right back if need be, another defensive possibility. But ultimately, I'd be bringing him as a midfielder to slot somewhere into that midfield. But it's so hard to fit all the amazing attacking options we've got in this team into an 11 players. It's going to be tough. But ultimately, it's a good problem to have realistically in it. Yeah, so I didn't really mention the defensive options. I'd be dropping Dunk Gahey and Quansah. Ezri Konsa has to be there. So to drop Dunk Gahey and Quansah, it's more for Jarrad Branthwaite to be there. I feel like Konsa's above Branthwaite, but Branthwaite for me would be in the squad. But it's harsh to leave out Konsa, you know. It really is. So that's why I feel he has to be there, and Branthwaite has to be there. But I'd also be looking at Fikayo Tomori, who wasn't even in the provisional squad, who I feel really should have been. But it's what it is. I'm going with the 33 that Southgate picked for a provisional squad and narrowing it down to 26. So yeah, for the midfield, I'm dropping out Curtis Jones and Wharton to bring in Rice, Mainoo, Gallagher and Trent Alexander-Arnold. That brings me on to attacking midfielders. The issue is I'm bringing 4 amazing attacking midfielders, and I don't know how I'm going to fit them into the system. James Maddison's going to have to accept a place on the bench. He's one of the options I'm bringing. He has to be on the bench realistically. Eberechi Eze can also play on the wing as an option. I think he has to be at the Euros. He had something really different. He's a dynamic player. Magic on the ball. I think he's got to be in the squad. He has to be in the squad, but whether I don't think he'd be starting, but he can definitely be an option off the bench. I think he'd have a massive impact off the bench. And a lot of these players can play on the wings. Bellingham, if need be, could play striker. Or maybe not striker, but he could definitely do a role as a false 9 in the team if need be. Phil Foden definitely can play on the wing. Those are the four attacking mids I'd be bringing: Foden, Bellingham, Maddison and Eze. And they're all versatile players who could play different roles in the system. So, yeah, it is very, very tough to say where everyone's going to play. As well as that, one of my wingers can also play attacking mid if need be. I mean, he can play there. It's not an if need be, it's one of his many positions. So, yeah, we've got a lot of versatility in this team. So, let's get into those wingers. I'm going to start on the left-hand side. That's another position, another winger who can play attacking midfield, Jack Grealish. He could definitely play in an attacking midfield role if required. But I'll be bringing him as a winger, probably behind Anthony Gordon, who's had a fantastic season for Newcastle. Obviously, Grealish hasn't really played that much in Manchester City in the arrival of Jeremy Doku, but still a great player. And he's touch and go whether he should be on the plane, but I would probably bring him over Ivan Toney. I mean, I've kind of just said who's not coming, but I don't think Ivan Toney should be on the plane. But we'll get into that later. I think Jack Grealish is he's close, but I would be bringing him. Out of the 33, he should be in the 26. And as for Anthony Gordon, the fantastic season he's had with Newcastle, there's absolutely no way he can be left out of the squad. And on that same basis, I think these three right wingers who I'm bringing have all had fantastic seasons, and it would be very harsh to leave any of them out of the squad. Namely, Bukayo Saka at Arsenal had a great season, being one of Arsenal's best players. Absolutely has to be in the squad. And Cole Palmer at Chelsea, who's been absolutely phenomenal. Young player of the season, and he's had a massive impact. He's been the main man at Chelsea this season. And the other right wing I'd be bringing is Jarrod Bowen, who's obviously been great at West Ham. West Ham has struggled a little bit in the second half of the season, but he's still been very, very good, West Ham. Jarrod Bowen, and I'd still say he very much deserves to be on the plane. Obviously, Palmer, as I said, could play in midfield. And realistically, it's of the season Cole Palmer's had, it might be hard to leave him out of the 11, but he's not going to start on the right over Bukayo Saka. So he might have to be playing in midfield. But there we've got Foden, who is much better in a 10 role, in my opinion, and Jude Bellingham. So I mean, we're not going to play with three attacking midfielders. It's going to be hard to get Cole Palmer in the 11, in my opinion. Right, that brings me on to my strikers. I'm going to bring the two obvious ones. Harry Kane at Bayern Munich. Great season, Ballon d'Or contender. I mean, he's not going to win it, but he's up there. And had Bayern Munich had a slightly better season, he might well have gone on to win it. But, yeah, Harry Kane had a great season. I mean, even if he hadn't, he'd probably still be in the squad. He's so influential for the team. He has to be in the squad. And Ollie Watkins, one of the Premier League's best players over the course of the season, cannot be left out. But it does, of course, mean I am leaving out Ivan Toney. Might be some objection to that, I suppose. But I don't think he's had a great season. Obviously, he missed the first half of the season due to his suspension. But then he returned, hit the ground running, and then kind of fell off a little bit. I mean, it's understandable. He spent 6 months out injured. He should not have been pushed into the starting 11 right at the start. He should have been slowly building up his match fitness, but Brentford clearly wanted to push him in to try and make sure they survived. Maybe they were struggling down there a little bit. So yeah, I don't know. But I don't think he's up to standard to be in the England squad, and I don't think we need to bring 3 strikers. And let's be honest, if Harry Kane comes off injured or something, Ollie Watkins is a good option. And if need be, Jack, as I said, Jude Bellingham can play in that false 9 role if required. So yeah, that is my final 26. Pickford, Ramsdale, Henderson, Shaw, Trippier, Maguire, Stones, Konsa, Bramthwaite, Walker, Gomez, Rice, Mainu, Gallagher, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Foden, Bellingham, Maddison, Eze, Gordon, Grealish, Kane, Watkins, Saka, Bowen and Palmer. And the 7 players dropped would be James Trafford, Dunk, Guehi, Quansah, Jones, Wharton and Ivan Toney. So yeah, that is my squad. That is going to wrap this up. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.